And yes, everyone is muted at this time. If you'd like to speak, you can absolutely raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute yourself. We also have in the room Wendy. Where's Wendy? Wendy Witherspoon. She's here from
I'm here.
Hi, everyone. City College. Keelan, where's Keelan? Keelan is, there we go. Keelan's the heart also from 3CSN. We have Giselle from Pasadena City College. Where are you at? Somewhere in there. And then we have Chase Selby, also from West Los Angeles College, and we've got Chris from El Camino College. So we've got quite a group. We all got together and planned this just because we realized that writing support takes a village. And so we wanted to get together and provide that village, not only for ourselves, but to extend that village to other folks as well. So what we're going to do today is we are going to talk together to identify some common strengths, hopes, some activities, some challenges among Writing Center professionals, whether we be administrators, staff, faculty, peer educators, or anything else. As long as you are a Writing Center, as long as you help people write, you're in the right place. We're going to connect with other writing colleagues to exchange some successful practices, and we're going to think about kind of some common inquiry questions that we need to think about going forward, especially as we move into the fall, where a lot of us are going to be going into hybrid or face-to-face models. So this roundtable is scheduled for an hour, but we will have an after-party disco where we'll continue the conversation. So do feel free to stay if you like, but if you need to leave at 4, we'll do a little trolley stop for you so it won't be awkward. So again, everybody now is muted, but do get ready to participate. Find that chat, tell us all your questions in the chat, your comments, your ideas. We want to hear it all. Answer each other's questions, answer each other's comments, make jokes. That's the place for it. Make that your space. Also, do feel free to raise your hands and we'll ask you to unmute yourself and use those reaction buttons. So if you look for the reactions in your bottom taskbar, you'll see the raise hand function. You'll also see clapping, thumbs up, rolling on the floor, laughing, surprise face, and so on. Feel free to use those icons too. We want to make this a fun, safe space for everybody. And sometimes we can't always communicate because we're muted and our cameras are off, and that's okay, but we can still participate in other ways. So feel free to use that chat, feel free to use those reactions, and feel free to raise those hands. Just so we can kind of get our mind around what we're doing today, we always like to start with some community agreements. So today, I just want to remind us all that we are going to participate actively. We're actually going to put you in breakout rooms. So we're not going to stay in this big room, right? We're going to be creating some collaborative documents together and come back and sharing it. So do be present. We're going to be in small group discussions for most of today. We will tell you before we go into those breakout rooms, but if you're double and triple Zooming right now, or you're also like cooking dinner and attending to children and can't be in that breakout room, do let us know so we don't leave somebody in the room like all by themselves. Do be ready to share your successes, your solutions, your questions, your confusions, and above all, let's just commit to being kind. It is a hard time to be alive. We need community care as much as we need self-care, right? So let's be the community care for one another as we try to navigate this insane time. So we're going to start with warming up our brains, and Wendy is going to walk us through that exercise. Take it away, Wendy.
Thank you. Thanks, Crystal. Hi, everyone. It is so awesome to be here and to see all of you on this Friday afternoon. As Crystal said, we want to take just a couple minutes to think about what has been working for all of us in the last year of online writing support. And what are some of the things that have worked well, and what are some of the questions you have? So we were wondering if you could all just take about 2 minutes and meditate, think, jot down some of the things that have been working well for you, and a question that you have, or a couple questions that you have about what's going to happen. I think Crystal's going to put a collaborative document in the chat, which we will be then kind of putting all these questions and successes on. And so we'll start right now, and I'll be timing us for about 2 minutes to take some time to just think and write down your successes and your questions. So Crystal has just put in our chat a link to a document that you can click on and jump on and provide some of your thoughts there. There's a box for successes and there's a box for one question I have. So if you could go ahead and write your successes in the left-hand side and the questions in the right-hand side, and try to skip lines in between if you can. Okay, so just to kind of look at what seems to be coming up for a lot of people, stuff that has been working. Zoom tutoring seems to be working. Coverage is easier, especially to call in tutors at the last minute. If there's a wait for a tutor, it's not as big a deal. If the student can hang out at home or have a snack, yeah, so absolutely. More FaceTime with the tutors and the students, not just seeing them across the room in the center. The annotation tool for visual learners, awesome. Online consultation modules, paper drop-off, use of the WC Online scheduling software, being in the Canvas class, offering tutoring on the weekend online. Nice. Students value the one-on-one or small group services in Zoom. Organized multiple workshops, hand-on lectures with the librarian via Zoom. Cool. Lots of stuff seems to be working. It's great.
It didn't work for me. I put it in chat.
We'll go over all these in the breakout rooms. Some questions.
Didn't work for me.
I got you, Tom. I'll put it on the slide for you. Thank you.
Okay, whatever. I took my stupid pills this morning, and technology and I don't get along anymore.
That's all right. We got you. We appreciate you. All right, cool. Thank y'all so much. Wendy, did you have any final thoughts? All right, we got you. All right. So, all right. So now that we have put that together, now we are going to pick an inquiry area. So what I'm going to do is I am going to talk about 3 pre-established questions. So I'll read them. These were also emailed to you. And then in the future, we might explore different questions based on what we generate today. But today, just for brevity's sake, we picked 3 questions that those of us who were in this planning community really thought were important. And so what we're going to ask you to do is to pick one of those inquiry questions today. Okay. So I'll just go over real briefly. Question number 1, what will it look like when we go back in the fall? What will writing support look like on your campus when you go in the fall, right? So if you go into this breakout room, you will be thinking about what's working well so far, what online tools and resources will you need if you're going to be doing a hybrid model. You might talk about the actual structure of the writing support at your campus in the fall, the balance between online and on-ground support. And if you're not going back face-to-face, what are you doing? What's that going to look like for you? And you might even want to talk about what the professional learning is to support what's going to be happening in the fall. So you may choose inquiry question number 1, or you may choose inquiry question number 2. Inquiry question number 2, if you pick this, you'll be put in a room with other people who want to talk about how are we going to rebuild our practices so that students come back. So we're going, in that room, we're going to have some discussions about what's working with outreach, what other outreach is needed, how are we going to strengthen the relationships with our students and our faculty, our classified staff, how are we going to build trust, how are we going to communicate support for our students, and how are we going to support students who need an extra leg up, English learners, other harder to reach or minoritized groups, how are we going to help those who might even need a little bit of extra help. So you can choose 2 if you'd like, or you can choose inquiry question number 3. How are we going to take care of each other? Remember that this is a tough time, right? How do we take care of ourselves, our peer educators, and our students when we're not even sure what we're going to go back to, right? It's all so up in the air. It's also uncertain. Again, what's working now to help you sort of like ground yourself and help take care of the folks around you? How are we responding to crisis fatigue, COVID ennui, Zoom fatigue? How are we mentally preparing ourselves and our peer educators and our students for going back in the fall? And how do we navigate all of the crazy new technologies, processes, and other uncertainties? How are we taking care of each other? So we can pick one room, right? And so right now what we're going to do is we're going to put up the breakout rooms, and we're going to allow you to pick your own breakout room. And Keelan is helping out with that. So Keelan, is that looking good? Are people able to pick their own breakout room?
Yep.
All right, cool. So if you can, just go ahead and pick your own breakout room. I see Kiara's already done it. Excellent.
I got nothing oh, there it is.
There it is.
I
All right. So go ahead and pick a room. We want no more than 5 people in each room. But as you can see, we have 2 rooms for each inquiry question. So if you want to look at inquiry question number 1, but there's already a bunch of people in there, like inquiry question number 1, room number 1 is already full, so you can go into 2. So there'll be 2 rooms for each inquiry question. So we might move you around a little bit if we have like 25 people in one room and 2 people in the next room. So we'll try to balance it out. And also, if you cannot sort of like figure out how to select your own room, that's okay. Just put the room that you would like or the inquiry question that you would like in the chat, and Keelan will arrange a room for you. All right. So I see most people are on it. Keep working on that. If you don't pick a breakout room, by the time we're kind of done, ready to open up our breakout rooms, then we'll just put you in one. So do try your best to pick one. Does anybody have any questions? All right, Chase is obviously working on his tech. While Chase is working on his tech, I will guide us through this next reflection. So Chase, just jump right in when you get that worked out. So what we're going to do next is we are just going to take a moment to think about the inquiry area that you have picked. So which inquiry area did you pick? Did you talk about the overall structure? Do you want to talk about how we're going to put ourselves on the map? Or do you want to talk about how we're going to take care of ourselves? We just want you to do an additional 2-minute personal reflection. What successes have you had in that area? What do you hope to accomplish in that area, within that area of inquiry in the next year? And what questions would you like to ask your team? So think back to what you wrote in the first reflection, but this time revise it to specifically hone in on the inquiry area that you have selected. So we're just going to give you 2 minutes to think about the inquiry area that you would like to explore, and then we'll open up those breakout rooms. Any questions? All right, I'm setting my timer for 2 minutes.
Okay, Crystal, I think they have put themselves in the rooms already.
Beautiful. Yes, most of them have. Keelan, I see that
Okay,
there
cool.
are 5 people who are not yet assigned. Fierce
That's
would like
right.
inquiry 2.
Yes.
All right. And was that your question, Firas, or did you have another one?
Yeah, but I don't know how I get to the room 2.
Yes, I will put you in there right now.
Thank you.
Just one moment.
We got you. And if you have not yet picked a room, just go ahead and let me know. Brian, what room would you like? 1, 2, or 3? 1, 2. All right. So Brian would like 2. Loretta, 1, 2, or 3?
I don't care which one needs another person.
Beautiful.
3 needs you.
I love Loretta. Thank you, Loretta.
Okay, Crystal, I came late to the game. I don't even know what I missed.
All right.
but
So
Sounds like you would like to be with people talking about caring for each other.
that is definitely Jeffrey's
there
style.
you go. All right.
I feel like that. Yes. Perfect.
All right.
All
And
right.
Keelan, did you already open up the rooms?
Yes, they were. That's how it works with them actually like selecting them, I believe.
We have a whole bunch of people in inquiry room 2. Can we?
I know. Hold on. The problem, let me move some of them over. Let's see. All right. Let's see.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and stop that recording. And what we would like to do is just to kind of have a designator for each room to tell us a little bit about what you talked about. Just sort of what were some of the big takeaways and questions? Because of course, I'm sure all of these questions are related. We wish we could be in all the rooms, but we can't be. And so we wanted to spend a little bit of time in full group session so everybody could get the benefit of everybody else's discussion. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes. And then I'll ask a representative from inquiry question number 1 about the structure and ideas. I'll ask you to tell us a little bit about what you said and what some of the further questions are. And we can look at the slide and I'll also pull it up. So I'm going to set my timer for 2 minutes and go ahead. Inquiry question 1, take it away. What came up for you?
So yeah, I'm going to be speaking for our group. I do apologize if you can hear the airplane flying overhead. We live close to the airport. But inquiry group, or question number 1 was, what does it look like when we return back to campus, or what does it look like if we're not returning back to campus? And not surprisingly, we actually ended up with more questions than we did ideas or suggestions. And I think that's just because of the state of things right now, that no one is really sure. Some people aren't sure what's going to even happen in fall. And some people that do have some more certainty or some more guidance to go back aren't quite sure what it's really going to look like. There were some questions that came up like, it can be difficult to tutor via Zoom. We don't have a physical paper in between us, but how do we do that in person when there's a physical barrier? What are some ways to reach out to students who might need help, who have never sought help? But then we kind of got down into a little bit more of the logistics, like how do we choose which tutors come back and which don't? What happens if a tutor's not comfortable coming back? Do they need to be in the learning center if they could just as well provide services at home? And one thing we really focused on, and we spent some time on, was actually talking about the benefits of online tutoring, because I think so much in the conversation, the focus is on the sort of the shortfalls or the deficiencies of online tutoring, and not so much on the benefits. And some of those benefits being that scheduling becomes a lot easier because a tutor can leave class and 5 minutes later they can begin their tutoring session. Sometimes tutors transfer, right? They begin at our institutions and they transfer to a college or a university across the country. In normal times, that would mean losing that tutor. Now it means that we can hold on to that tutor, and especially at a time like this where it's so crucial that we have a team that really understands the ins and outs of tutoring. And obviously the time and energy that's required to train a new tutor, that is sort of made a little bit easier. So, question of how we can continue to advocate for our, for some of our services or our services in general to remain online. And yeah, I think that's kind of where we are at. Again, asking more questions than we had ideas or answers. Obviously, some ideas for face-to-face or at least a hybrid face-to-face using appointment booking services, still maintaining the sort of same quality of service and the same scope of service on-site and online could be both a good thing and both a very labor-intensive thing. How do we sort of logistically and psychologically maintain both of those? So, yeah, if you're waiting for us to say here's how you do it, and here are the 3 easy steps you need to follow, unfortunately we don't have that for you. But I think as time progresses, we should continue to find clarity wherever that may be.
Thank you. And if those questions resonate with you want to talk about them more, we're going to hear a share out from all the groups. And if you want to stick around, we will dive more deeply into that. So you're very welcome to stay. Our next inquiry question was getting us back on the map. And we actually had 2 groups. One was led by Giselle and one was led by Keelan. So Giselle, Connie, Firas, do you want to take it away and tell us what you came up with? Your big tips and questions?
Did you want to do it? You could, yeah, go ahead, talk first.
So about my question, hello everybody, my name is Firas Lewis. I'm embedded tutor, ESL department, Grossman College. So pre-discussion, we have a nicer group. I love it, and I just like I studied many of them, their question, everything. But the real question I would have, like, I was like have a problem to reach a student. So I text them. So when professor sent me like special name, so they don't show up or doesn't respond, so I have to send him a message. So I try to try different strategy. One of them is like emotional, very, and then second one like a fun. Some of them like to encourage them to come over, but then really not respond. So they stay quiet. Like I still know, I still until now I don't know what happened to them. So I'm really wondering about them. I try, but I like people shy more than 3 times. Will be hurt to push more. So that's really my question was. Thank you.
Anything else to add, Giselle, Connie? Cool. All right.
I think I could add a little bit. I think Connie had some great ideas. Yeah.
Well, one thing that our Learning Center director started this last semester was that people seemed interested in is she calls it the Tutor Jam. And so once a month, there's a designated Zoom, and we tutors that can come, we meet up and we talk about our experiences that month, and you know, and we ask for help, or we you know, we just building our little tutor community, and that's been a good thing. And my own personal experience with being on the class canvas has been very productive. I've been able to do like a weekly email to all the students in critical thinking, and giving them tips on writing, and trying to make it fun, and also always a little blurb about how we're, you know, they're persevering through difficult times, you know, a little encouragement, little invitation. It's helped.
All right. Appreciate that, Connie. Thank you. And then room B that explored this inquiry question led by Keelan. 2 minutes for you. What else did you come up with? Questions or epiphanies?
Team, did anybody want to speak? You know, Jesus had some great things to say. Ala, Nanda.
I think Ala had a really great suggestion, request, I guess, to have a place where we could share some resources so that we're not all reinventing the wheel, or, you know, separately coming up with stuff. And as an example, you know, she's working on a referral form for instructors to use to provide some useful information to tutors when they send a student over. But like things like that, like everybody independently making something when, you know, we could probably learn from each other. So that was one thing we discussed.
Another thing that was brought up that I thought was, oh my goodness, so many brilliant minds in that room. But one of the things that I really appreciated was talking about like the new, one of the things that Jesus especially brought up was that language learners were finding it easier to go to online tutoring than in this time. So I thought it was really awesome to think about, like, how do we kind of maintain that and that trust. He was saying, Jesus, did you want to talk about this? Because you would do a much better job than I did.
Sure, I'll dig. Okay.
Thank you.
So what I spoke of was mainly let me look real quick. Yeah, so we saw a lot of increase with the students who I feel were not showing up the quarter I tutored in person, which was the ESL students. They were very shy, or they didn't want to come in unless they had like an individual session with a tutor. And it really opened the doors for them to come. You know, some of them have kids, some of them have jobs, and you just saw this automatic trust that they try to have now that it was all online, and they could finally see someone on the other side of the screen. And in some ways, if they felt lost, they felt like they could really just come and talk to a tutor and feel that connection. And I think that was really important in this time.
Very awesome. Thank you. All right, some great ideas for question 2, how to get us back on the map. And closing us out is going to be question 3. How are we taking care of one another? So 2 minutes for that team. Let's see, that was Christopher. Oh, Jeffrey was going to speak for that team,
Yeah,
right?
so thank you, Crystal. In our room, we really talked about when taking care of students, really making sure that they are apprised of all the resources that we have available, and really going back to the ESL, ELL students, making sure they're not lost in the shuffle, because we can't help them if they are. And I think the last comment about sort of the helpfulness of some of the online opportunities, the access is really important there too. We want to listen to students about how they want to go forward. So surveying was an idea. How might we survey students? And there was also a comment about surveying about what they want to do online or face to face. I should add there. And then realizing, though, at the same time, a survey is not a mandate, right? You don't know what you're going to love ahead of time necessarily. And so making sure that we offer different modalities so the students can really see what kind of blend they want, right? I mean, I hadn't thought about the idea that came up, some students may want to do math in person, but writing online. Well, that's kind of interesting. There may be some personal preferences, disciplinary influences as well that may determine how students interact with the support. We also see that, it's not just the pandemic, we also have fire seasons and there are various traumas that we're dealing with. And this brings up lots of questions. We don't know the answers, but really how to support students. But I think one of the answers is offering online tutoring and support because of its accessibility for those at least who have the bandwidth. Concerns about safety, face-to-face as well, still exist. And if you're doing both modalities, how to schedule tutors. I mean, that was another question that came up.
Can I piggyback a little on that? Talking about care and self-care, especially for our faculty and non-certificated, what do they call themselves? I don't. We had about once a month, if not more often, some meditation and yoga sessions.
Yeah.
Were just incredible. I would say we had a yoga session of an hour, and I remember making a comment everybody thought was totally humorous, which I totally meant. If you could do that 5 times a day, maybe not for an hour, but for a few minutes, it would really bring down the stress levels and be self-caring if you could do something like that would get you through that and get you back to where you had to be instead of just wanted to be.
Right, and Tom, that brings me back to something Jill said in our group is the importance of really setting boundaries for yourself and taking time to do something like that, right? Even to stand up and breathe, and stretch between working with students. During the pandemic, I learned something called lazy butt syndrome. I didn't know its idea existed, but the physical therapist was telling me about it. And like you get all these nerve pains and whatnot, and you gotta move, you gotta meditate, you gotta stretch and change your position.
Wonderful. Exactly. Thank you all so much. And we are definitely going to continue this conversation. I also understand that I want to be respectful of folks who need to leave at 4. So if you do need to leave, this is a perfectly respectable time to do so. Thank you so much for being here. Come on back in the fall. We'll be here. I'm also putting up the link to our Discord. So if you want to join us on Discord over this summer, feel free to do that as well. Also on the last slide of the collaborative document that we put together, the link for which is in the chat. I'll put it in there now. There's also these resources that you see on the screen, including different Writing Center professional organizations, and of course my email and 3csn.org. So if you'd like to come back for design labs or other fun interactive spaces like this, we would love to see you in the summer as well. hopefully we'll get a link up to our evaluation. If Keelan, if you have that, could you put it up? And then we can keep that feedback loop going so we know how to provide more of these in fall. And of course, in fall, you will be taking the lead. It won't be us. We'll have a call for proposals out. So you can tell us what you would like to present. We'll have like a deconstructed conference in the fall. So we can let everybody's awesome shine a little bit more brightly. So thank you very, very much. If you need to leave now, thank you, Kiara. Thank you, everybody. If you are gonna stay, that is also awesome.
Can I ask you a question when you're done, please?
Sure, sure. We will be having an after hours disco. So if you want to stick around, we're going to be sticking around for the next half an hour or so. We're going to be facilitating more conversation, more questions, more sharing. So please do feel free to stay. If you are staying, we're just going to continue on with these questions. What came up for you in the breakouts? What further emerged that you'd like to ask or talk about? And what kinds of practices would you like to share? And since this is our disco after party, we will stop recording, but we will keep talking.